So right before I was due to start, just got something in my throat. Just trying to cough that up. So that's great timing. How are you? It's the Thursday edition of Club Corbie. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it on today because again scheduling problems, and honestly right before the stream started I wasn't feeling too great beyond whatever was stuck in my windpipe, but we're going to press on. I will bring up Clip Studio Paint and we'll get right to it. We're still taking our time, and I haven't gotten to do as much on this page as I would have liked to, but as you might notice right away, that second panel is very different to how it looked at the end of yesterday's stream. What I want to do is show you the changes, so keep my layers straight here. So I made a point of retaining the old art from yesterday's stream for the sole purpose of showing you all the things that I've changed in this. So the first thing that I did was I started to highlight the areas that really needed to be fixed. Added another layer, just took a red pen and just highlighted them. So top to bottom, this line on Corinne's hair here is in the turnaround model sheet, but it's not consistent with how she looks in the first panel or the way that she was done. So what I wanted to do with this panel was, rather than just being slavish to the turnaround sheet, which shows how Corinne is supposed to look at every angle, work more on making sure she's consistent between these panels. So I took this line out because it's not visible in the previous panel. The eye I ended up widening up just to make it more consistent with the sort of the style that we have going now, which is much more cartoony, much less realistic. The mouth I ended up changing completely. The hair, the red line here was to indicate where I wanted the hair to stop, because it's a bit longer here again than it was in the previous panel. So what I've been trying to do is just what I wanted to do was pull it back up, hence the arrows, indicating to myself there, pull it back up, have it stop just above the armpit here, between the shoulder and the armpit. So a bunch of changes that I needed to make. And that is what I ended up doing. One of the other changes that I made was pulled in the nose as well, just so that it sort of swoops out at that angle, so it's a bit more flat rather than rounded out. Ended up redoing the whole shape of the hair as well, so that it's again more curved. And in that respect, again, if you look at from the first panel to the second panel, sorry, that the shape of the hair is much closer. Maybe it's still not identical between both angles, but it is closer than it was, certainly. So those are the changes I've made so far, and now we're going to move on and do the rest of this part. But I wanted to show you that because I thought that might be quite useful in showing you just what's going into the process here. And sometimes your first attempt isn't always going to be what you want, and you need to go back sometimes and just have another go until you get something that's closer to your actual vision. Also, I think it's telling that the slavish adherence to the reference materials and the model sheet that I've been using is not always helpful, because you also need to be consistent between panels, and you also need to make sure that your materials are up to date with what you're doing now. So if anything, I think it might be time to update the reference materials and come up with new model sheets that are more up to date, because after however long it's been, my drawing board's about to fall over. However long it's been, I guess it's been 2 years now since the model sheets were created, and I've had the opportunity to draw these characters a lot more since then. And it could be that they just need an update. I don't know where I'd find the time to do it. I mean, as you know, I'm constantly complaining about, there's not enough time to even get these individual pages done, and I'm constantly behind schedule, insofar as there even is a schedule at this point. There's so many things I want to do. I want to get more pages of this comic done, and in a hurry, you know. And that's on top of, I need to try and maintain a more consistent streaming schedule, and try and be here with you Monday to Friday, And I always have ideas also for other like sort of mini Corbie projects like that, like, oh well, wouldn't it be great if I could update all of the model sheets or things like that. I have a list of sort of website maintenance activities and things like that I need to do. I haven't touched the Corbie Instagram page in months, by the way, just because there really isn't any content that I'm ready to share there just now, and I know that it's going to die a death, and so it feels like it's not like worth the time investment. But even beyond Instagram, I'm always complaining about Instagram, but there's lots of like social media websites and maintenance and stuff that I need to be doing. Stuff like that I need to manage. I need to do something about the Teespring store that we have as well, because I'm not happy with it and I want to migrate it to somewhere else and hopefully come up with some better products as well. I think we can actually make some new items. And there's other non-Corbie stuff that I want to do as well. I mean, you've got like your day-to-day tasks, things that I need to do in the house or whatever, but I don't mean beyond that even. I really miss I miss my old Transformers blog that I was doing before Corbie, and I wish that I could get it going again. I know blogs aren't even really a thing anymore. I had a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. You can even watch Club Corbie on YouTube. But what I mean is, I have a YouTube channel. I keep meaning to. I have a video that I recorded a year ago, which is action figure related. It's toy related, but again, Corbie always takes priority, and I can't devote like a whole couple of days to just video editing, and that's part of the problem. And then, you know, just develop what I'm doing with Corbie, so I need to figure out what I'm going to do about that. So there's so many things I want to do. Honestly, if I was to go back to start blogging again, probably it would be better to move everything over to YouTube actually instead of writing, because it's like, you know, blogs aren't even really a thing anymore. Blogs are kind of done, sadly, but and everything's centralized, and you can't get people to go to an external website or anything like that, so to read. But I had a bunch of ideas for other sort of action figure related videos that I would like to do, mostly Transformer stuff. Again, I kind of feel guilty about that stuff because I feel it's sort of a personal responsibility to be making things, my own things, and not just gushing about other people's stuff. Like, look at this toy or this cartoon that somebody else made, isn't it great? I feel like I should be making my own stuff and sort of trying to toot my own horn. instead of talking up something that a big corporation did 35 years ago. Okay, I can't figure out what I'm doing with this hand. I think I need to draw through just so I can see where it's going, so it's something like that. So we're just gonna scribble this in a very crude way because it's all gonna get erased anyway. Yeah, so most of the hand is going to get blocked off anyway, so I think we just leave it like that. Actually, just the hand is going to end up being almost entirely obscured by skirt, which is in the foreground, so it's almost just going to be, it's going to come down as like a line that just curves into the skirt like that. So that was a lot of work for nothing. Whenever you hear anyone talk about drawing through, well, there you go, that's what it is, drawing through. Figuring out what's going on behind this element that is in the way. And then making it all work. I'll do a bit of cleanup now. I would assume that much of this is gonna get... No, I was gonna say most of this is gonna get obscured by the speech bubble, but that's not true, so... Or not necessarily, so... Okay. Right. let's as a token gesture we'll draw Corinne's backpack down here in some form. Again, I don't know how much of it's going to end up being visible, but just a couple of lines even, just to indicate that it's there. And with that, I'm going to save, and then we'll move on and we'll get started on Sadie. I'm kind of still not very happy with how she looks in the first panel, by the way. I feel like she's got a bit of a giraffe neck thing going, and she's almost too sort of angular. Oh, I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to pick your battles, and you can't keep redoing and redoing everything on every panel over and over again. But I've really got to fix that. I don't know why that's bugging me. Nah, everything about it just rubs me the wrong way. But you can't get super hung up about that sort of stuff when you're doing a comic like this, and I need to have, this is page 22, I need 50 pages, or 150 pages, before I can even do anything with this comic. So let's start with just a single line down the center here. 50 pages, 4 panels a page. That's a fair amount of content, especially if, like me, you are incredibly fussy, have this very sort of, you know, if you're the sort of person who's never satisfied, and you always want to go in and meddle with all the details. You have to draw the line somewhere, no pun intended. You need to be able to say, well, I did the best I could with this panel, and it's not perfect, and it's not exactly what I would want, but you know, at some point I just have to move on. And you also know I'm like a broken record with this, but something that I can agonize over for hours, ultimately people are going to look at it for like a couple of seconds and then they'll move on. And the simple fact of the matter is that it's a free comic, that I'm not a professional artist, you know, as in I don't get paid for this. So there's that as well. I say I don't get paid for this, you know, Ko-fi's right there, Streamlabs is right there. If anything that I say on these streams is educational, it gives you any kind of insight into the creative process, then By all means, you can always donate and I will appreciate it. You are under no obligation, of course, to do so. I don't know if these ears are going to be too big. Sometimes I'd like to go just a bit more oversized with the ears just done right. I feel like it can make for a very pleasing sort of cutesy character design quirk, but there's definitely a limit before it just looks less aesthetically pleasing. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking when I was doing these storyboards and what the characters were trying to convey. I should really have the script, the scripts for the pages in front of me so I know what the dialogue is that's being said. I have too many windows open as it is. So what I end up doing instead is I'm trying to read a lot into the cool little sketches here and just trying to remember from memory what's actually supposed to be going on and what's being said. Yeah, okay, one eye is slightly higher than the other. One ear is slightly higher than the other as well. there's a danger here that Sadie's going to end up with a very tall head, so I've got to be very aware of that. Let's add in the eyebrows and then we'll work on figuring out where the top of the head goes. Okay, let's do this the old-fashioned way. What we'll do is, it's going to be like a circle that's going to come up around the back of the head like that. So then we know where the rest of the skull is supposed to be. Pull this in. We have to adjust this a bit. I don't need all these lines to actually line up perfectly, I just need them here to figure out the proportions, if you know what I mean. They're all going to get erased anyway. There we go, that's about right. Back of the head here might be a bit too wide, but something like that. So the top of the skull might be a bit too flat. Again, we're not illustrating a 100% accurate rendition of what Sadie would look like, you know, if she had no hair. We're trying to figure out how big her skull, and you know, we're not making a perfect recreation of her skull, but we are trying to figure out where the top of the head should go, and then that's going to help us make sure that the hair doesn't get too outrageous, we don't get carried away. It's good, it's a good exercise. I should do that more often actually, instead of just wigging it as I so often do. And very often I end up with characters who their heads are a bit too tall, their foreheads are a bit too big. Yeah, I think I can do better than that. Just a very small detail here, but let's leave that line in there just as a guide, so there where the center of the head's supposed to be. It's cold today. I don't know what it's like where you are, but this is, I think, the first day in a while where it's really felt I feel like there's just a bit of a chill in the air, and even though the sun is out and it's almost 4 p.m. here, but I don't know, this might be one of the first days where I feel like it, you know, you can decidedly tell it's like summer is over. I don't know how we're going to manage through winter time, if it's going to mean I have to come into the studio where it's going to be colder. Especially if we end up streaming at this sort of time of the day at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it's going to be dark. Oh, it doesn't even bear thinking about. Okay, I really need to go and get Sadie's model sheet and bring it up, because I want to make sure I get the shape of the hair correct. I know I was just saying sometimes that's sort of my slavish adherence to the model sheets from 2 years ago is not a good thing, but in this case I think it's going to help. So for one thing, the hair isn't really like that sort of shape, it just sort of peaks a bit higher and just has a little bump at the top. It's very easy when you have to draw the same character over and over again to sort of subconsciously you create your own little shortcuts where you think in your mind, you know, well, I know how that is supposed to look. Just little strokes of the pen are almost like little symbols, like the way that I had the top of Sadie's head down there, just like that sort of arch shape, and it's not actually the way that it was originally intended. But you get into these sort of habits and you've got to be conscious of them, because that's sort of how you end up going down the road of characters that have changed their appearances over time. But you've got to be aware of, do you really want to make those changes, or is it just because you're speeding through these things every day, and then, you know, what I mean is you get carried away, things drift away over time, and before you know it your characters end up looking very different and you've kind of lost track of what they're supposed to look like, Again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier on about if I had time, I'd update all the reference material. Because also I have 2 years of drawing the comic under my belt now from when I last made those decisions about how the characters are supposed to look, so that's... I could go back and build upon what I've learned and say, well, we made those changes last time around. Here are a smaller set of changes just to streamline things further, or to confirm things. Again, just for my benefit, because I'm the only person who's drawing the characters anyway. But I feel like the more reference material you have and the clearer your guidelines are about how everything in your comic is supposed to be depicted, then the better. It really helps the more that you can figure that out from the outset. Because that was the thing with Corbie, was that first issue in particular was just me struggling to figure out the sort of the visual identity of the comic and what I wanted it to be like, and then it wasn't until the second issue where I decided, no, what I wanted it to be is something completely different from where I started. And then I was able to start to lock things down. But even when you lock things down, there's still... things still drift over time. They become unlocked. You need to go back and secure things. I know I'm kind of rambling today. A lot of the time I feel like when I'm on stream I'm not talking enough. So I hope you don't mind if I'm chattering a bit today. We're going to wrap things up soon anyway. Okay, I need to fix this so that the back of the head here swoops into that. If I don't do it now, I might forget. Okay, I'm not happy with that either. No, that tie's too small. Okay, what we're going to do is I'll leave the tie just now. It's too small relative to what the overall size of the body is going to be. I'm losing it. You get to that point sometimes where you've been drawing for a little while and you need to go take a break anyway, so I'll draw the rest of it in. Get the rest of Sadie's, well, the rest of Sadie drawn for this panel, and then we'll move on and we'll do the next panel as well. Try and get this one done, because it's not an overly complicated page, or it shouldn't be an overly complicated page, and it's going to be a mostly dialogue driven one anyway, so it doesn't even really make a whole lot of sense to be agonizing over this page, that's for sure. So that's what we'll do. I want to thank you for watching today's stream. Do remember that you can always support us as well on Ko-fi. The address is on screen there. It's ko-fi.com/Corbie or streamlabs.com/Corinne Morgan Corbie as well, if you want to donate and support the stream. Really, even if you wanted to support the stream, even by just following us on social media, on Twitch, on Periscope, or subscribing on YouTube, wherever you're watching, is all a big help as well. So yeah, I know not everybody can afford to donate, and that's fine as well. But whatever you can do, it all helps. So with that in mind, we should be back tomorrow for the next edition of Club Corbie. Hopefully around the same time, about 3 PM UK time ish. So with that in mind, I want to thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next stream.